How do police clearances work? Conversations about mining. Hi, Jess. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Andrew. How are you going?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you. So you've got a question for me.
I do. I have a question for you today, and it's all about police clearances or police checks. How do they work? I've had a lot of people messaging saying, I've been asked to do this special clearance or this different police clearance or this gold squad clearance, and I just wanted to go for you to maybe run through exactly what the different police clearances are and maybe when you would be asked for them.
Yep.
And any issues or anything that may come up on those that could, cause you to not get employment for a FIFO role. So
Yep. So when I first started at the end of '94, it was just a state-based police clearance that you needed. So you just had to go down to the police station or even the mine site that you're on. They'd get you to sign a bit of paper saying that they can check your police clearance for you state-based. And then it moved to a national system a short time after that. And then after the Bali bombings in the early 2000s, in 2007, they brought in the new terrorism laws. And so if you work on a mine site that's got explosives on it, then the owner of the mine has to put in an ASIO police clearance for everybody working with with reasonable expectation of having access to explosives. So basically, everybody on the mine has to be done because they word it in such a way that if you left somebody off, it could come back and bite you on the ass. So all the owners pretty much do everybody. So what ends up happening these days is that the companies will get you to do your own police clearance first, just to make sure that you don't have anything serious on there. And people do try and dodgy up police clearances all the time and all that sort of stuff. Generally speaking, with mining, if you've got stealing or you've got violence offences on there, that pretty much rules you out. If you've got drug charges from years ago, that's not a big deal because they can drug test you every day. If you've lost your license, just because of, points or something like that, that's not going to be a big deal. If you were driving down the Mitchell Freeway with 5 cop cars behind you at 200 kilometers an hour and you lost your license for 3.5 years because of it, then that's probably going to be a big deal. But yeah, so once you submit that, the companies will get you to do their own. So they'll do their own police clearance. So that'll be the second one that you do, even though it's just confirming the one that you've already paid $45 or $65 for, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but they do that because they get a lot of people come through that tell them that they've got nothing on there, and that when they do. And then once you get up to site and you start your job, you probably, when you're doing your inductions on site the first week that you're there, you'll get another police clearance to sign. And that will be the ASIO one that the mining company has to do. And sometimes that can take 3 to 6 months to come back. And that's that one, they break open everything. Anything that's sealed from your past or anything like that, it's all broken open. So if you, had stuff removed, then it's all gets unlocked again. So I'd just like to be clear with everybody on that.
And what about the gold squad clearance? That's something separate again, or?
No, that's they used to call it the gold squad clearance because they, if you're working in a gold mine, you go do a gold squad, but it's just your police clearance now.
Cool.
We talked a little bit about the gold squad in the last video that we did. Those guys here in WA, the way it got set up, there are no rules for them. They don't need to go and get a warrant or anything like that. They can just do whatever the hell they want. So just be aware of that. But with the ASIO clearances, when they brought it in 2007, the other thing that you need to be aware of is that you don't necessarily have to have committed a crime. If you've got a family member that's associated with organised crime in any way or is on the government's radar for anything, and it comes back that you're associated with them, then often the mine site will get a letter saying, we'd prefer this person not work on your mine site anymore. And it was really a rude shock. When they first brought them out in 2007, everybody was like, oh, what the hell are you getting us to sign? And everybody's like, oh, no, don't worry. It's just for formality and all that sort of stuff. And we lost 3 guys off the mine site and hadn't done anything, clean records. They just got a letter back saying, we prefer these people not work on your mine site anymore. And that was it. That was the end of their mining careers.
Yeah, we had the same thing happen down in Boddington. We had a few guys that worked with us that had like family, cousins that were maybe patched up like gang members or, had been done for kind of trafficking drugs or like aggravated robberies, stuff like that. It wasn't even them at all, nothing to do with them, but it was their immediate family who they were close to. And yeah, we had 3 or 4 guys too that we lost down there when that came in,
Yeah,
which was time. We were like, wow, like, you know, you can't help who your family is, but I guess you can also not associate with them.
Yeah, it puts you in a no-win situation. It's like two of the guys had nothing at all to do with explosives whatsoever.
Yeah.
One of the guys was charge up, which didn't help, but,
Yeah.
but you know, it is what it is. And yeah, so it's just my golden rule with mining is to be straight up with people. Don't lie. You know, I've seen people get sacked over a $20 lie, and I've seen people keep their jobs after a, if you don't mind me using the vernacular, a $2 million fuck up. You know, that, and they kept their jobs because they told the truth. You know, it's all about being straight with people. I find if you're straight with them, they'll be pretty good with you. It's only when you dick them around and bullshit them around that you'll have a problem. So
yeah. I've had a few candidates in the last year or two that have been to jail or had some like pretty serious drugs charges in the past, kind of 5 to 7 years ago. And one in particular did not disclose that and didn't tell their hiring manager. Obviously it comes up in your police clearance. So you're better off to be straight up. And obviously if there's a large amount of time, like the more time, the better, that obviously in your previous charges. But I kind of say, anything over 2 years old, if you don't have any other charges and you've made efforts to make your life together, be honest about it. Be honest, be straight up, make them aware that you're happy to be drug tested, you know, randomly at any time, and have the open conversation, because they're much more likely to take you on, you know, on that conversation than you say nothing and then they just get this police clearance back and there's all these charges on there. So definitely be honest, be transparent about it. You may not get the first job you apply for, or the first job you interview for, but eventually someone will give you a shot and appreciate your honesty.
yeah, and people know how onerous these rules are. And the other thing that you can do too is, if with, you know, the gold mines tend to be some of the most difficult mines to get into if you do have something on your record. You can look at some nickel or the copper mines or the base metal mines, those sort of things around the place. They could be a little bit easier to get into. But yeah, just, you know, honesty is the best policy. And, you know, people are into second chances with mining. You know, God knows some of the people that I worked with, you know, back in the day when I first started, you know, that there were some wild people back in mining in those days. But yeah, you know, a lot of those people have still carried forward, and because they've turned their life around and all that sort of stuff, and, you know, still able to get onto mine sites and do their job and all that sort of stuff without, you know, having to, you know, jump through hoops all the time, just because they've got a good reputation within the industry.
Yeah, definitely. It is. It really is who you know. And if you get in there, you get a role, whether it's as an offsider or a trade assistant or even as a utility. If you can get that foot in the door and work your way through and to get into the role that you want, and have that, you know, that history for them to look at, rather than looking back on your criminal charges, it's not going to follow you around forever if you're good at your job and you've got good work ethics. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just a matter of putting the right foot forward. But yeah, and it also is, and I hate to say this too, because I have this conversation every now and then with people. It's also knowing when to draw a line in the sand, knowing when, you know, like, no, my criminal record's going to be way too much for anybody to even possibly entertain, you know, and so you need to be realistic about that, unfortunately.
And so that's where you can always come up with, you know, a 2-step plan where once you've done your 3-step plan package, you can come up with a plan where, right, okay, maybe my charges were only 6 months ago. So you know what, I'm going to go and try and find a similar role, whether it's, you know, it's directional drilling or something else within, you know, that may have those transferable skills, even civil works, you know, something like that, construction, and just try and keep that, have that time clear and build up that, you know, build up that working history, and obviously stay out of trouble for that time, and get yourself together if you've been off the rails a bit. But yeah, there's always ways. If you have a goal and you know that is something that you want to do, there's always ways to make it happen. It may be a bit longer term than you would like, but yeah, there's definitely ways that you can make it work for you eventually.
Yeah.
Like Andrew said, as long as there's no like really violent crimes or theft, then you should be able to work around it eventually.
And like Jess said, making yourself as attractive as possible by doing the 3-step plan. If you're standing in front of them and, you know, you've got a couple of drugs charges from 5 years ago and you can tell them what primary and secondary ventilation is and what a bogger is and what a jumbo does and everything else that they need you to know, then that changes the goalpost for you again, because you become an easy win that, is acceptable. Whereas, before it might not have been. It's all about, giving the employers as much of what they want as you can, and knowing how it all works is what they want.
Definitely.
Cool. Great question. Thanks for that, Jess. And if you've got any more questions, please send them through. And if you could share this video around and like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.
Thank you.